Hello everybody, I am Wiggle Burrito and I am back with another video. This week is episode 3 of the How To series, and if you haven't already guessed, this week is focusing on Obi-Wan Kenobi. And if this is the first video of the series you have watched, before we did General Grievous, and then after that we did Emperor Palpatine. So if you don't know what we were going through, we're just going to go through star cards to use in GA, which is the game mode you're watching right now, or Galactic Assault, and star cards for heroes versus villains. And on top of star cards, we're actually going to go over some of the heroes you definitely want to avoid that are on the opposite side, obviously, and some heroes you definitely want to be a little more aggressive to, because the hero I'm talking about might have a bit more of an advantage towards them. Then once we quickly go over those two topics, we're going to finish off the video with just some overall tips and tricks and maybe some misconceptions about the hero or things like that. And if you're enjoying some of my meme videos or the kill streaks or this series, make sure to leave a subscribe, it is greatly appreciated. So with that out of the way, I think it's time to get right into how to get better with Obi-Wan Kenobi. So to start it off, let's start off with the GA star cards you want to be running. And one of these 3 cards I'm about to say is actually really controversial, and I'll explain why it is in a second, but here are the 2 ones you definitely want to use in GA. One of them is Jedi Resilience, and the other one is Forward. So this next one is actually really controversial, and it's about his LB ability's All Out Push. So the one I like to actually run for this ability is Give It All, because I just like the All Out Push to be quicker, because it already has a super long recharge time, and yeah, of course it can reach a really long distance, but it can still reach a long distance when you have Give It All, just the charge up time is so much shorter. So those are the 3 I like to run in Galactic Assault, but if you like your All Out Push to reach longer range and have a longer charge up time, then you don't have to run Give It All. Okay, now let's move on to the HVV star cards you want to go, and here are the 3 of them. You want to keep Jedi Resilience on because it's just more health regeneration, it's really good for HVV. You also want to replace Forward with More Doubts, and this is kind of more controversial one for HVV, but personally for me with Obi-Wan in that mode, I like running double Mind Trick star cards along with the health regeneration. Because personally, I think Mind Trick is really made for HVV. It's not great in Galactic Assault, so it's really going to help you in HVV. So that's why I like to run 2 of the 3 star cards for Mind Trick. So just to reiterate, because it's kind of confusing, the 3 cards you want to run for HVV are More Doubts, Think It Over, and then Keep Jedi Resilience. Okay, so now that we got the star cards out of the way, let's get into some heroes you definitely want to avoid and some heroes you want to be a little more aggressive to. So I was thinking for a long time, and I actually couldn't think of a hero that is a complete hero you definitely want to avoid when you're playing as Obi-Wan. I mean, yeah, of course, when you're light side, you definitely want to avoid Darth Vader, but it's not as drastic as maybe Luke trying to avoid Darth Vader, because Luke has less health and way less health regeneration than Obi-Wan. But I did think of a couple heroes you definitely want to play more aggressive to. Those heroes are Maul and Kylo Ren. And that specifically applies to, those are 2 heroes that rely on their abilities a lot, and way more than regular ones. If you can get a Mind Trick on a Maul or a Kylo Ren, they're going to have a hard time facing you. Because as for Kylo Ren, he's most successful against other heroes when he has his abilities going. He has a nice ability loop. Well, not nice for the person he's using it on. And for Darth Maul, as you might know, Darth Maul needs to be super mobile. If you can get a Mind Trick on him, that'll take away his spin attack. It'll be a lot easier for you to get some damage on him. So now let's get in some tips and things you definitely want to do and things you definitely don't want to do when you're playing as Obi-Wan in GA or HVV. So we'll start off with some HVV tips. You definitely want to use your Mind Trick ability as much as you can. Because this ability doesn't get that many uses in GA, meaning you won't find a lot of situations where you'll need it, because there's obviously way less heroes than in HVV. So in HVV, you definitely want to take advantage of his Mind Trick ability, because a lot of dark side heroes rely on their abilities a lot. Like some I said earlier, like Maul and Kylo, but also Vader, also Grievous does a lot. So you're going to want to use your Mind Trick as much as possible when you're playing in HVV as Obi-Wan. Another little tip for HVV when you're playing as Obi-Wan, it applies to his Defensive Rush ability. You definitely want to use this a lot less than you would in Galactic Assault, just because of the reason you don't have Forward on, which makes it do more damage. But also, and really most importantly, you can be choked directly out of that animation. And choked meaning Darth Maul's chokehold, or way more damage, Vader's normal choke. You might have missed one of my 5 mistakes people make as heroes, and this was actually in it. So you definitely don't want to defensive rush towards a Darth Maul or a Vader, because they can choke you directly out of the animation. So now let's move on to some Galactic Assault tips. So starting it off, it applies to his Mind Trick ability, and I'm not saying don't use this ability in Galactic Assault. It can be really useful. I'm just saying don't use it as much as you would in Heroes vs. Villains, because it can really be annoying. When you're mind tricking, he's not blocking during the ability, obviously. You might have some damage reduction, but nothing's more annoying than trying to mind trick someone, and then right when you do it, you just lose so much health because you're letting down your block, and he's just standing still during the animation. And of course, you definitely want to use this if you come across maybe a Darth Maul like you're actually seeing right now, or maybe a Kylo or Vader or anyone. It's always nice to just drop them a mind trick, so maybe they have a much harder time clearing out a room or something. But you definitely don't want to try to use this on infantry. And I'm only saying that because it's really not going to do you that good. Infantry only has 150 health and 200 if it's a heavy. It literally takes 2 lightsaber hits to kill them. By the time it takes you to do a mind trick ability, you could have already swung twice and killed them. Of course, there might be a few really rare times it actually might help to use a mind trick on an infantry or a reinforcement, but my advice is really just save mind trick for heroes. So another good tip for GA applies to his defensive rush ability, and this only applies if you have the forward star card on, which I really recommend because it lets you one-shot 150 health or infantry, so any infantry that isn't a heavy. This can help you a lot when there's a hallway like you just saw there. You can just defensive rush, and even if they're a reinforcement or heavy and they won't die, you can just dash backwards and get a nice all-out push like you just saw there was a great example. So the tip for this one is, if you're kind of confused, it's just use defensive rush. Defensive rush is so helpful if there's a lot of guys, and you might kill one of them if you swing twice with your lightsaber, but you're also going to take a lot of damage from other guys while you're swinging that. So defensive rush can get you out of those really tough situations if you come across a lot of guys in a hallway. Probably the last tip for GA is, of course there's more stuff, but the last most important tip is, like you're actually seeing right now, take advantage of his high stamina. Obi-Wan has really high stamina, which means I'll go back to it in the clip, but I'm actually just standing there on the door, because if you're unfamiliar, if they override the doors on Naboo on that phase, you get locked in and you have to wait like 30 seconds. So I was actually taking advantage of his stamina really well. Obi-Wan has insane stamina. You gotta take advantage of that. So I think that is going to be it for the video of how to get better with Obi-Wan Kenobi. So this will take some practice making some of the tips actually be a habit, but once you can get good with Obi-Wan Kenobi, it is literally hard to die. Obi-Wan's survivability is really good. His health regeneration, his stamina, it just makes for a really long life and a good kill streak. So I hope you can get some tips from this and actually gain something, because Obi-Wan is so fun to play in really any mode you think of. He's my second most favorite person to play behind Luke on the light side. So I hope you can get some tips from this and actually learn something, because Obi-Wan is really fun to play. So I actually think that will do it for the video. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave one in the comments. I will answer if you have a specific question about Obi-Wan. And that is going to do it. So I am Wiggle Burrito, and I will see you guys in the next one.